You're listening to Philly Who, the podcast that tells the stories of the doers, thinkers, and performers of Philadelphia. I'm your host, Kevin Schmidlin, and today I'm talking with Becca Craig. Becca is the Executive Pastry Chef of Cake Life Bake Shop in Fishtown, and before that, she was the Executive Chef at Le Cherie in Rittenhouse. This spring, she starred as a contestant on Best Baker in America on the Food Network. But her biggest claim to fame so far is that in 2017, she made Beyoncé's birthday cake.
We're driving to Aikens Oval, and I'm still like, it might be, or maybe it's just a good friend of hers. Like, who knows? Who knows? And we get the email with the contact information, and they're like, hey, when you get here, call this number. This is Jay-Z's stage manager. And then I was like, okay.
You'll hear how Becca got her start pretty much on a whim while watching the Food Network in South Philly with her roommate.
We were watching Duff's show, like Charm City Cakes on TV, and she's a graphic designer. So we both have an art background. And I think she said first, you know, I always thought I could do that stuff, like these cake things. And I was like, I thought the same thing. You know, like it would be fun, you know, to make the art that we make, but make it edible. Like, how cool is that?
And you'll hear what it's like firsthand to be on the Food Network competition shows and how once the clock starts, the pressure's on.
Everybody has a dedicated camera guy. You know, you've got somebody with the camera in your face at all times, just in case something crazy happens, like, ooh, hopefully you burn something.
All this and more about Becca Craig, baking for Beyoncé, and the Philly pastry scene right now on Philly Who. I'm your host, Kevin Schmidlin. Stay tuned. Just a heads up, there is a little bit of cursing in this episode, in case that's not your thing. So, Becca Craig got her start as an artist by attending the Tyler School of Art at Temple University. She would go on to graduate school and get a job on Jewelers Row, taking jewelry ideas, putting them into 3D design programs, and then 3D printing them. And while she enjoyed this because it was both scientific and creative, there was another pull that she would soon discover when moving in with a new Craigslist roommate in South Philly.
So I kept doing my own art. So that was like, my art side was still like stimulated at home because I would be painting and I was showing in like Old City and I had a show in New York and like little things, but you know, still cool. And I moved, so I left my apartment. I was still working for Pomerly, and I moved in with what became a new friend. I found her and her fiance on Craigslist. They were renting out their room.
Craigslist roommates.
Yeah.
I'm just getting one too.
Oh my God, they're great. They're great. I've always had a good experience. So yeah, I met them. So it's a really funny timeline. I went down to see the house and we looked around the house. It was a tiny, tiny little room, you know. I was like, that's all I need. And basically we decided that day, like, I like you guys. And they were like, well, we like you. Here's the key.
Let's do this. Wow.
You know? And then a week later, I moved in. And then literally a week after that, we were watching Duff's show, like Charm City Cakes on TV. And she's a graphic designer. So we both have an art background. And I think she said first, you know, I always thought I could do that stuff, like these cake things. And I was like, I thought the same thing. You know, like it would be fun, you know, to make the art that we make, but make it edible. Like, how cool is that? And we basically decided, okay, let's try it. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Like, why not?
So we just
started doing it.
Went to the store and started buying some baking stuff.
Literally, that's what we did. Yeah.
No way. And then did you just start making treats for yourself or other people?
Yeah. So we bought some fondant. We bought like food coloring, all that stuff. And we made a couple cakes just to make them. And then not too long after, we had like, you know, friends and coworkers and family that were like, oh, can you make this thing? And, you know, we priced them very low because it was like, just pay us for the ingredients.
Right, yeah, exactly.
We're just practicing at this point. Yeah, and it's sort of like, it picked up a little bit, and then it would be like friends of friends, and then like friends of cousins, and sort of started branching out a little bit.
All right, so it spread through word of mouth.
Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And then at what moment did you start to think that this could be something that you, like, this is your thing?
Oh man, it was a while. I feel like,
yeah.
I loved the craft of it, and I loved that I had so much to learn, because I could look forward to something and I knew it was tangible for me, but I knew I wasn't there yet. Looking back, it's pretty funny to think of some of the stuff I made. But it took a while because you know what? There's stressors to it. Like delivering a cake might sound pretty simple, but when it's the middle of summer and you and your roommate only have, she has the car and you don't have, and there's no shocks and there's no air conditioning and everything's melting. It's like, it brings on a stress that you start to go, is this really what I want to do? Like,
Yeah.
The fun is not really here right now. But honestly, I kept doing it. And, I knew that the drive to want to learn more about the science behind the baking, as well as like just learning the materials more, would keep me in there. Yeah.
What would you say is the funniest thing that you made in this period of time?
Oh my God. Okay, this is a great case. So, what was that? High School Musical, right? Was the movie? Okay, so this, I think it was my roommate's friend or someone that had asked us to make a High School Musical cake. So we made the cake, and to start, we didn't have regular flour. We had whole wheat flour. I didn't know any of the science yet. Okay.
Okay. So I don't know any of the science now. Okay. So you can't use whole wheat flour? Okay.
I found out you can't. This is like, it's so funny to me that I even went through this stage. But yeah, so we were like, we'll just use the whole wheat. It's flour, you know, like we eat bread with
Same
whole
thing,
wheat.
right?
Like, what, yeah, like,
it'll be healthy.
Exactly. It'll be healthy. They'll love it. So we make the cake and it bakes up super dry, like crazy dry because it's whole wheat, and it also like a little denser. So what happens is the wheat bran that's in there actually like cuts your gluten strand. So all the gluten makes it nice and fluffy, and the wheat does the opposite of that, and it's just a very dry texture. So we have this whole wheat cake now, and we have the sheet cake, and then I was like, we should have the figures jumping off the cake. Like that would be great. I'd never worked with gum paste before to do this, right? So I'm sculpting these figures, and what happens is it dries out really fast. And so some of the figures just looked a little jacked up. Their faces looked a little crazy, a little wonk, because it just like dries, and I would make another one, but it would still not be really that great. And I also didn't have I feel like we didn't have the right food coloring or something, because I ended up painting their outfits on. So there's weird like shiny outfits that were painted on them, and they were sort of not the best figures, and the faces were a little scary. And like
Please tell me you have a picture of this cake.
I do. It's somewhere. Actually, we had a website, and it was even on the website. Because like we started the website pretty early, and we added all those. And looking back, I'm like, no.
You have to add all of everything you got at that point. You're not picking and choosing.
No editing, just all the stuff. Just put it on there. Yeah. So we didn't charge the woman or anything like that, but we did ask for her feedback. She was like, yeah, the cake was a little dry.
Yeah.
Like we're like, okay. So yeah, that was a rough one. That was definitely a little rough.
You've come pretty far since then, I'd say.
Pretty far. I feel like I've gotten a little better.
Yeah,
so.
A little bit. So let's talk about that. At what point did this go from being a side hustle to your full-time gig?
Yeah. So when I left the jewelry studio, I made a decision to, I knew I wanted to go back to school, and it was really a matter of what two things could I do at once. So I went for it all, and I left the jewelry gig, and I kept doing my business, which my roommate at that point wasn't really interested in moving farther. So I just kept doing it. So I was kind of solo at that point. So I basically chose to do school and this company. And at that point, I got a really good setup. I worked with the Black Sheep, which is a bar downtown, and I basically bartered with them. So I worked in their kitchen on their off hours. So from like midnight to 9 a.m., I had free reign of the kitchen.
While you're going to school?
While I was going to school. And I made their desserts, and I made a couple desserts for restaurants around the city, and then did my whatever I could push for the company.
Then how did you get involved in Bakery Boss?
Oh, that's great. So I graduated from the Art Institute. I was still doing my company. I was still working out of the Black Sheep. And I had a friend from school who was working at Kermit's, which used to be a bakery downtown. And so the pastry chef that was there at the time, he had connections that were similar to my connections. So he knew of me, I knew of him. And the girl that went to school with me was like, hey, we have people quitting. Like, do you want like a steady paycheck? I was like, yes, I do. That sounds wonderful. Let's do that. So yeah, I talked to Chad, who was the pastry chef, and he was like, yeah, like come on board. Like, we'd love to have you. Let's do this. So I was there from, I think, mid-August. I was not there long. I worked there for like a month or two, basically. And what happened was Chad had been on this show called Next Great Baker. And that's a Buddy Velastro show, the Cake Boss guy. So he was connected with him. And Buddy had a new show called Bakery Boss, which he travels around the country fixing up bakeries that are failing. And they were about to do their second episode. And their culinary producer called Chad and said, hey, I need an assistant. Like, do you know anybody? Because this is not working out, as I need somebody who knows what they're doing. And he was like, I have somebody. Let me talk to them. And so he talked to me and he was like, this is a thing. I'm not like offering it to everybody or whatever. He's like, I think you would fit if you want to do it. And he's like, and I'm like, I'll leave you guys. Like, that I would have to like,
I just got here.
Yeah, I just got here. And he was like, if I were you, I would just do it. Like, you get to travel around the country, you get, your meals paid for, you get all this, like, you get paid. Like, if I was you, I would do it. So
how did you feel about that opportunity when it came to you?
Oh, super excited. Like, I get to travel and they pay for me to do it. And I get to like learn about the TV food, like, what is that? Like, what is TV food? I don't know. I don't know if I trust it. I don't know what's going into it.
To see on the other side of the screen.
Exciting. Yeah. Like, I was just very curious about that because it's such a big deal in the industry now. Like, everything is related to TV food, like all the shows that are on, like everybody relates to food through their favorite food show, So I was stoked. I was so happy. And I was so happy that Chad was like, do it, don't hold back. Because then I didn't have to feel guilty about like leaving them randomly, Yeah. So anyway, so I, that's what I did. I think it was maybe a week later, if that, I was on the road. I was on the road with them. It was like said and done. And I got to do that it was the beginning of September till the beginning of December. So the whole fall, I was just traveling and going to different bakeries, and it was a blast. It was crazy. It was super long days and stressful and fun, and it was nuts.
Yeah. So what's next after that? I mean,
So what was really cool was the last week of filming, Buddy approached me and he said, hey, I'm opening a Carlos bakery in Philadelphia. Do you want to run it? And I was like, that's very tempting. It's very much a setup where he was trying to make an efficient way of opening Carlos bakeries across the country. So it was like, here's the plan executed in the Philadelphia location. And I was like, that could be cool. He was offering very generous, options and things. And like, it was definitely on my mind. It was definitely an option. And that same night, I got an email from one of my chef mentors at school. He said, hey, a friend of mine, Chef Pierre, needs a pastry chef. He just opened Les Cherie, and it's like, hey, I have this opportunity. Literally the same day.
Wow.
I got these two major opportunities. And I thought about it. I went back and forth for sure. And for me at the time, Les Cherie was a place where I could learn and grow and push myself. And the Carlos Bakery was a good financial option.
Yeah. Well, it was more formulaic.
Exactly. It was more like this would be a managing position, and this would be learning to manage people and manage a bakery. And for me personally at the time, that was not what I was looking for as much as the other. I was super happy. It was like long days and long hours and lots of work. But at the same time, I got to be like, oh, I want to make this pastry next week. Okay, let's make it,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, let's do this.
So from the High School Musical cake to this, was there a moment where you kind of took a look back and said, holy crap, this, sort of thing that I started on a whim watching the Food Network with my roommate has turned into, this already impressive career?
Yeah, I think I do that on the regular. There wasn't necessarily one moment. I feel like I'm consistently like, every once in a while I'm like, oh, damn. Like, what? Like, what happened? Yeah. Just like let's do this thing. And it just worked. It was like, it was meant to be. And I didn't know, you make all these choices in your life to have a future that you see, and you're like, I want that future. And it's just so funny to me. And it's so satisfying to me when it shows you, it kind of blindsides you. Like, this is it.
Life's just like, haha, wait till you see.
Yeah, like, no. I got this. Don't make any choices. Thanks.
So it wasn't too long until you found yourself making a cake for a pretty big celebrity's birthday. right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So I was just getting back from a couple days away out of the shop, and I get a text from our salesperson, and she said, "You have to come in," like, because it was my day off. And she's like, "You should come in. I have this thing that's going to happen. Like, it's happening this weekend." And I was like, I'm not coming in. That's fine.
It's my day off. Come on.
Yeah. And she's like, "I think we're making Beyonce's cake." And I was like, "Oh, okay, sure." Like, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Okay, right. And Lily is like obsessed with Beyonce. I mean, we're all obsessed, but she's like,
Everybody's obsessed.
you know, everybody who isn't obsessed with Beyonce. So they get a call from some mysterious man. And this is right before the Made in America concert, which happens with Jay-Z and well, he runs it. Beyonce's usually here in Philadelphia. So it's the week before, and we had already planned to have a Bay Day here at the bakery. Like, we were going to have Beyonce themed things. Yeah. Like, we were already on that board because it's her birthday and, you know, whatever.
National holiday.
Yeah, exactly. So I get in, and we get this call. And so we have a time limit too on like very custom cakes. We need at least a week, you know what I mean? To have supplies, to have time, whatever. So this guy had called on Tuesday, and they were like, "I need this cake. I have friends of mine. They're in from New York. Like, it's somebody's birthday. We just want something special." And okay, sure. And they're like, "We saw on the website, there was a croquembouche." Okay, another one of those. And as well as the geode cake. Can we have either of those for this weekend? And the salesperson, doing how we do, was like, "Listen, it's too short notice for custom cakes, but like, we'd love to give you something. Like, we can offer you these, and these." Great. And he's like, "Okay, that's fine. Like, I love this flavor. Can you put like gold and bees on it?" And she was like, "Sure. Yeah. We'll put some little cute things on it. Fine." And so she gets the payment information, and there's a little clue in his like information. She's like, sparks a little like ding, something in her head went, did a little Google research and found out that he's directly connected to them. And I still wasn't disbelieved.
So you're like, no, come on.
Like, maybe it's somebody, maybe it's part of that, but and also delivery to Aikens Oval, which is where the Made in America Fest is.
Okay, yeah. So you're just connecting the dots here. It's starting to add up, but you're not convinced.
I'm not convinced. I can't like get my hopes up like that. I have to be like 100% sure. I gotta stay grounded, exactly.
So what convinced you?
So it was literally days later. So she called back. She was like, "Hey, listen, we didn't know. We can do this geode for you. That's fine. Do you want like a crown and gold and yellow and black?" And like, and he was like, "You got it. Exactly."
Very
okay,
cool.
Great. So I'm still not convinced, but I'm like, sure, I'll make this.
I guess that's fair. If somebody, if you get called and someone says, "Hey, do you want us to make your cake like 5 million times cooler?" You're just going to say yes. So
yeah, exactly. So I was still like, probably, but probably not. Like, it's 50-50 for me at this point.
But you start making the cake.
But I make the cake. So we make these really cute little cakes with bees and gold on them, and then I make this geode that's gold and black and all this stuff, and I make a crown. So we're really like taking a risk here, because now we're making this edible crown that's based on her the crown she wore for one of her performances. So I'm really like, okay,
this better be Beyonce.
This is gonna be really embarrassing now. But I'm still doing it. And then I made these little cookies that were like crowns and beehives and the whole thing. We're just going with that theme and just running with it. Just diving in hard. So hopefully it's her. So literally the day of delivery, I'm on the delivery with Lily and the sales girl that used to be here. And we're driving to Aikens Oval, and I'm still like, it might be, or maybe it's just a good friend of hers. Like, who knows? Who knows? And we get the email with the contact information, and they're like, "Hey, when you get here, call this number. This is Jay-Z's stage manager." And then I was like, okay.
Still not convinced.
Now it's for Beyonce.
Wow.
And it was. And it was for her. So we get there. We met up with our contact and her chef. And he showed us, backstage in their little, like, the trailer where he works out of, and their little lounge area. It was beautiful. We didn't get to meet her face to face. Of course, we were all ready to.
Yeah, of course.
Just in case, like, get a little fancy and
every day I'm ready to meet Beyonce, because you never know.
It can happen.
Yeah.
It can happen. So we hung out there and met people there. But and then we saw, like, secretly we saw some pictures that like of them with the cake. And then, so the coolest part, honestly, like the coolest part about it was that one of her guys, whoever, you know, she probably has a bunch of people, a team, called and talked to Lily and said, Beyonce wanted us to thank you for the cakes.
Wow.
She loved them. Thank you so much. She wanted us to do that. And I was like, that's so cool.
The moment you found out that you were finally convinced, you must have felt like, how did you feel? You must have been so
surreal.
excited.
Yeah, it was surreal. It was like, it took me, I think it really took me, apparently my brain is a little slow. It took me a few days to like realize.
Yeah, it takes time to process.
Yeah, because, you know, it was, you think about, okay, I made this for this person. That's cool. I know that name. And then you think, this person is actually going to eat the things that I made. Like, and then you're like, whoa, that's crazy. And then this person is going to talk about the things that I made. And like, you start to see all the levels of what kind of repercussions that entails, you know? So yeah, it took me a while to process, and everybody else was like on 100% stoked immediately. And I think, like you said, I process things like differently in a way. So I was like, just like it absorbed so slowly in this like very like deep way. And I was like, holy shit, like that's some crazy shit. And everybody else like knew it. They were like, I get it. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's huge. And I was like, it is huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty nuts,
That's
you know?
great.
Yeah.
So the shop, I mean, you guys already, without this, were planning on celebrating Beyonce.
Yeah.
You guys must have been off the wall when you just wound up making her cake. Like,
Oh yeah. It was crazy. Like oh my God. Plus like everybody in the world, literally press around the world was calling, because anything that Bay touches is gold. You know what I mean? And I didn't realize the extent of that until I had experienced it. Like people everywhere wanted to know. They just need to know. You know, they want to know about it. I mean, and like, so articles went up online, articles went on TV, and it just like went up everywhere. And it was crazy to see. I looked at the comments one day, which is not a great thing to do. You just avoid comments altogether. But
yeah,
I was
that's
just
dangerous.
It's very bad. It's a bad place to go. So, but it was interesting to see how many, like how much people were invested in anything that had to do with her. You know, like just the thousands of comments because people wanted to have their word, whether it was like, I love her.
Yeah, yeah.
It was just that, like, I love her, you know, and like that was a comment just because her name was mentioned in this thing. It's like, it's wild. And then people who would like, you know, rip apart the cake, and then other people who would fight about the cake, and other people would rip apart Beyonce, and people would fight her and fight them. It was like wild just to get a glimpse into that world. And it kind of opened my eyes to just celebrities and like how do you deal with that? You know what I mean? Just living in that.
I mean, yeah, to have your birthday cake be such a controversial, you know, it's news. Your birthday cake is news.
Yeah. It's insane. And I don't know how they do it. You know, like celebrity, especially something like Beyonce, who's worldwide loved, you know, more power to her, because that alone takes so much strength to just like every day, everything you do is like people want to know.
Microscope.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So now you are more in the public eye.
Oh, yes, on TV.
Yes, you're on TV. So how did you wind up starring on Best Baker in America?
That's a cool story too. So I'm not a in front of camera person. I'd rather, like on Bakery Boss, I was perfectly happy being behind the cameras. You know, I like making the stuff. I like doing that. And this opportunity arose through Lily. Actually, she had been on Cupcake Wars a while back, and so they were looking for contestants for the show, and they called her. And it's very like overall pastry competition. It's like Best Baker. It's not just like cakes. It's like all the stuff. So Lily was like, listen, that's not really my jam. For many reasons. She was just like, I don't really want to do that, but I know somebody who should do that. She was talking about me.
Oh, spoiler.
Spoiler. She's talking about me. And yeah, I can definitely be shy in front of a camera. So I figured, you know what? I'm in my 30s. Like, I need to face this stuff. Like, why be nervous about it? You know, like if it makes me nervous, maybe I should do it. So I figured, let's just go for it. I'll try it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an up and down story. So at the time I had planned a trip with my boyfriend to go to Panama. And it was the dates that they were going to film. And that just happened to be some part of information that I knew going into the first phone call. So I spoke to this nice guy and about the show, and he told me more about it. And I told him about the Panama thing. And he was like, the dates are negotiable. This is early for dates. So don't worry about it. Okay.
Let's talk first, and then we can worry about moving stuff around.
Exactly. Yeah, he's like, you got plenty more to go before anything happens. Okay. So we got along great. And he was like, all right, I want to send you to the next level of interview, essentially. And he's like, Skype with this woman. So I Skyped with her, and I didn't mention the Panama thing, but we talked about my background and like blah, blah, blah. And like, Beyonce cake. And,
well, of course.
Everybody wants to know about Beyonce.
It's your ticket.
Yeah, it is. Literally is my ticket, because for TV shows, people want you to have some kind of gold star on your record so that people want to watch you. Like, they want to trust in something. They want to trust in Beyonce. They want to trust in another competition. They want to like trust in something in order to like get invested in you. So I was super lucky that I had that. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't have made it on the show. So I interview with her. She likes me. Basically, I like move up the ladder in interviews. And at some point, I'm about to interview with like a bunch of the producers on Skype, and I'm supposed to like make a cake and time myself, and make a plate of dessert and time myself and all this stuff and just have it for them. And I'm talking to this woman, and she's like, okay, so just to confirm, like blah, blah, blah. And these are the dates that they'll be filming. You need to have free. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be out of the country. Like, I can't believe I didn't mention to you. I mentioned to him and I forgot. And she's like, no, can you change it? And I was like, I don't buy insurance on my flights.
Yeah,
like, I'm not that person. Nobody does that. So
like, $10, you kidding me? No.
Like, hell no. Wasting my money. So I was like, I didn't buy insurance. Like, the Airbnb is booked. Like, I don't know. I booked everything. She's like, shoot. So we basically spent the next couple minutes on the phone going, shoot.
Yeah.
Damn.
Somebody's going to have to solve this.
Sucks. Yeah. and I was like, I just hate that sucks. And she was like, I really liked you. And I was like, I really liked you too. We had this like moment of like,
wow. So
I wanted to do this.
You guys thought it was over.
Yeah. 100%.
Wow.
100% thought it was over. And it was funny because I had this feeling before that I was going to be on the show. Not that I was like, I really want to be on this show. Not that I didn't.
Right.
It was just this other feeling that I was like, I'm going to be on the show.
This is going to happen.
Yeah, like it just was natural. It just, came from somewhere. And I was like, oh, it's weird. I'm going to be on the show. And I'd been interviewed for like Chopped and other things. And I didn't get that feeling. Mm-hmm. And I also wasn't on those shows.
Well,
so,
okay.
But I did. I was very much like, oh, I'm going to be on the show. So it really confused me because like, that's so weird that I had that feeling. And like, now I'm not going. That's so weird. Basically, I got off the phone with her going, I guess that was fun. Like,
yeah,
let me know next season or something.
Yeah.
And they were all bummed. And I text my boyfriend and I text my mom and my sister, and I was like, yeah, it sucks. Like, they just said I could be on, like, I'd go to the next level, but like Panama. And so my boyfriend, being the great guy that he is, was like, hey, like, Panama's always going to be there. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? I was like, but tickets and like rescheduling. And he was like, whatever, like, find out how much it is. Like, whatever, just if you want to do this, like, obviously a year from now, you're not going to be like, damn, I wish I'd gone to Panama that week.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I wish I hadn't have spent that like $100, $200 or whatever, So I was like, of course, you're a genius. Let me call them. It was not a hard thing to switch. It was like a minimal amount to change the day. And it was like easy peasy, like, relevant to like what was going on. So I text her or like email her that. And I was like, listen, wait, I'm going to see if I can do anything. Like, hold the spot, And yeah, so that was fine. I ended up like getting to that interview. They liked me. And I want to say I had another interview. There's so many interviews.
Wow.
I had another interview
lengthy
after
process.
that. Yeah. Cause they want to like make sure that you hit the marks on your skill level, you hit the marks on your entertainment value, I guess, all that stuff,
So, you touch on something so interesting there, not really related to cakes, but how we are willing to forego things like that just to not pay like late fees or change fees or whatever.
Yeah.
And, if you just kind of think of it like, hey, are you willing to pay like a couple $100 to be
right.
a star on a TV show? Well, actually, yeah. Can I call you back? Like, you guys, remember how I said I'm going to go down? So that's an interesting lesson.
Yeah.
And then one other thing, you mentioned how you had the feeling I'm going to be on this show.
Mm-hmm. Have
you had that feeling about anything else ever?
Yeah. let's see. I'm trying to pinpoint. I know I've had that feeling before. I get
you
that.
Just kind of you just have the intuition that something's going to happen. Something's meant to be.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's just like, it's random throughout my life, but I've had it since I was a kid, where it's not like every day I wake up and I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen.
I'm going to have a Pop-Tart for breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's not like that. But I definitely have very randomly, it'll just like kind of come from behind and just be like, this is a thing. And I'm like, okay. And I'm always skeptical because I just am a skeptic. And I'll be like, sure, we'll see. But for sure, they come out right and they turn out to be true. And maybe it's a psychological thing that I'm like helping enable. Who knows? But it definitely is like a different feeling from like the average.
Any other specific times you remember feeling that?
I mean, honestly, when I had started the company and I had talked to my roommate, we were both like, oh, I always thought I could do that. That was one of those feelings where like when I had watched that show, I like saw myself doing it, not in their kitchen or anything, but like it was some other part of my brain that was like, that's a thing that you do, you know? So that's kind of funny. And the fact that my roommate brought it up and I didn't, and she was like, I always thought I could do that. Like, let's do that.
I think a lot of people, I'm going to take that back because I feel that too. And I think everybody does. Mm-hmm. I don't think everybody trusts it though.
Definitely.
Like trust that weird instinct. We don't understand it, but it's real. It's real.
Yeah, very
I'm
much
just surprised that you didn't feel that about baking a cake for Beyonce, but we can move on. Because
my intuition was, my skepticism was
oh my God,
way
you held on to the bitter end. This is not happening. This is not happening. Holy shit, I just baked a cake for Beyonce. Either way.
I got to be self-protective at some point. Yeah. Don't get too excited. Don't get too excited.
Somebody else in the podcast has said that before. That's
really?
Good advice. Yeah. Verbatim. Okay, so you have a bunch of interviews. Mm-hmm. And then at what moment are you like, okay, this is actually happening. I'm going to be on TV.
Oh my God, it was a great moment. So I had spoken, the last interview I had was with a guy named Simon, who worked with the network, or he worked with the production company. And I was, random day, I knew that I was going to like, hopefully even if I wasn't going to be on, I was getting some kind of call. Cause I was like, just tell me something after all this, And
Get
it
me
was,
out of my head.
Yeah, exactly. And it was coming down to the wire. I think it was 2 weeks before theoretically I would fly out. And yeah. And so, because I still hadn't changed my Panama flight because I didn't know if I was going or not. My boyfriend had to get his passport done. So we were in that mode. We're like, okay, we're going to Panama. And so we're at Walgreens getting his passport photos done. And I got a call from New York and I was like, ooh, it's probably somebody who knows what it's about. And it's this guy, Simon. And he's like, hi, Rebecca. I had such a nice time talking to you. Like, blah, 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 blah. I think you're great at what you do. And like, it's wonderful. And he starts giving this tone like, thank you, but, it's this whole vibe. And I was like confused because again, I was like, that's so weird because my gut was so strong that I was going to be on the show. And I'm like, okay, I'm not like personally offended, it was sort of like random, but so weird. So he's like, yeah, so we did really like you and we really appreciate you going through the interviews. I know it's a lot. And like, thank you for all that. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you might want to, I forget how he said it. Something like, you might want to plan what you're doing next, but in 2 weeks, you're going to be flying out to LA or something. And I was like, damn it, Simon.
He totally Ryan Seacrested you.
Totally did. I was like, damn it, Simon. Don't do that to me again.
We're not on TV now. Like, can't you just tell me?
And he was like, I'm sorry. It's the only fun I get to have.
Oh,
like,
that's
this
great.
Is the moment. So yeah, I like walked away from my boyfriend and his photos like going, oh, okay, I guess. And then I walked back with this like dumb grin on my face. And he was like, oh my God, I know exactly what you're going to say. Like, you're on it. I know you're on it. Yeah.
So you get on the show. What would you say is the biggest surprise going from behind the scenes to in front of the camera? I
mean, surprise, I don't know, because I kind of got to see a lot of it. I know that there's a lot that goes on. Like, I know that all the cameras, all the people that need to be there for everything to happen. I know that things have to be set up. You have to set the kitchen scene before. Like, I knew that part. I think it was the harder transition was like literally being the one who had to be timed to get the stuff done and finding the ingredients I needed and like remembering where the pans are. And like, you're in this brand new kitchen and you're like running over, wires and stuff, trying to like get your ingredients and stuff. So I don't know if I was necessarily surprised. More so just it was a very different experience having to like be quote unquote the talent, you know, what they call you, the talent. And just being timed and doing all the things that we had to do.
Yeah. So that was the biggest change for you in your baking experience, was having that like clock ticking.
Yeah. Like I work on a tight schedule, and I've always been pretty efficient. But when it comes down to like a different kitchen, a different setting, and a camera guy in your face, you're never quite ready for that. And like you could tell some of the seasoned veterans that have done competitions, because they had a little more ease. Like especially the first couple challenges, I was just like trying to politely answer questions for them. You know, like they ask you questions while you're working, like, what are you doing here? So that they can show you talking about what you're doing. Obviously, I knew that. I'm totally happy to do that. I love talking about the science of it or what I'm doing or why. But there were definitely moments where I'm like, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
Or politely being like, okay, I have to run away from you now.
Right. So yeah, not only do you have to complete this challenge, which is difficult, but you have to be on TV and be presentable and you know, and give a show. So, you know, I'm so curious about that frenzy. Like, are you like, does time slow down? Like, or you must have a million, it goes so fast. You must have a million thoughts.
Yeah.
In a second.
Well, yeah, it's funny, like just talking about the being on like the TV part of it. So you have everybody has a dedicated camera guy. You know, you've got somebody with a camera in your face at all times, just in case something crazy happens. Like, ooh, hopefully you burn something.
Yeah.
Right?
Gosh. like hopefully the cake explodes.
Yeah. Like, let's hope something crazy happens. Or you're just doing a cool technique and they want to have everything on camera. So you have your own camera guy. And there are moments when they're like, it's just so funny to say, but they're like changing their battery on their camera. And it's like this few seconds of relief. It's like an oasis in a desert. You're like, your brain just like part of it is like back functioning again. Like you don't realize like part of your brain is just aware of the camera and like your people and people talking to you and whatever. And then like when they disappear for a second, you're like, like it's just this moment of clarity. You're like, I feel like I'm focused on what I'm doing right now. You know?
Did you find that it got easier as you completed more challenges?
Yeah, it definitely became like less of a nervous, I don't know what's happening, or like, you know, trying to just focus on like, you know what you're doing, do the thing. You know, like you have to focus. I had to focus very hard on that to like stay calm and stay like efficient. It was like, just do the thing that you know how to do, you know, do what you know best. But eventually it became more like, okay, we're going to work today. You know, like this is just what I do for work now.
Time to go do all this crazy stuff in 30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So do you think that you would be on TV again and do a similar challenge type show?
I think I would. Yeah, I think if it was similar. I'm not really into the ones that are all drama. I like more of the like focused on the skill set. But yeah, if there's a show like that with a technical focus, I would. Yeah, I think I got my confidence in the TV world.
That's cool. Yeah. So you know, you mentioned how you wanted to use this as a growing opportunity, you know, to get more comfortable on camera. Do you feel more comfortable now?
I do. I really do. It's funny. I hadn't thought of it. It's the first time I've actually thought about whether or not that worked, I guess. But yeah, because beyond that, I mean, you have to get comfortable or else you're just there in a weird space and there's cameras on you. So you have to just start at like, let your guard down and just be like, there's no choice. I'm going to be filmed and mic'd no matter what I do. So yeah, I definitely found my comfort zone there. Like I found a way to like settle in and get comfortable there. And you're mic'd all the time too. So like it's like really kind of, you get ingrained that you're just like, somebody's listening or watching, you know, like this is just part of it. And then afterwards doing like interviews like this and stuff, it like sort of reinstates it a little bit of just being more comfortable in some kind of broadcasting way, you know?
Have you, do you have any sort of relationship with your fellow contestants now?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
You're good friends?
Yeah, I made some friends. We were actually, most of us were like pretty friendly. Everybody got along pretty well. And, some of us keep in touch like on a regular basis. And some, I think are like, there's some people that went there not to not make friends, but aren't really interested in like keeping long-term friendships. I mean, if I like went to any of their bakeries or restaurants, it would be there with open arms. Like absolutely. Everybody was very cool. For sure. Yeah. It was a great group. It really was.
Yeah. You laughed a little bit when you said that everyone got along.
So there was a strong personality or two that rubbed some people the wrong way. In the end, it was like nobody had bad intentions and everybody was like nice, but there were definitely some moments of like, oh, that one.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like,
mean, you have that. You're going to have that, in the office, in the conference room. It's everybody has that. So
For sure.
That's cool. Other than just words of encouragement, if you could send a message to your past self at any point, whether it's at Tyler, at the Art Institute, anywhere, would you? And if so, what would you say?
Ooh, that's good. Yeah, I would definitely, I mean, maybe it's on the lines of encouragement, but I would definitely say to myself, like, don't hold back, because in my same principle of like going on TV because it made me nervous, like same idea then, because I'm sure there were moments that I probably missed by like being shy or like holding back a little bit or not wanting to make somebody uncomfortable or, like whatever. I think I gained a ton of knowledge and experience and whatever in that time, but I bet you there were big moments that I could have also had if I was like not worried about that stuff. You know what I mean?
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing Philadelphia today?
Well, I'm like very involved in the food part. That's like a big focus for me. So it's exciting because there are so many great places for food, whether it's restaurants or bakeries or what have you, food carts, things like that. But the challenge is that there's so much of that. It's like saturated. And I think it's confusing the market a bit here and there. It also becomes, so another aspect of the food thing is, which I think is nationwide, is the interest in the culinary world. So people are getting culinary degrees to be in this culinary world, because they see everybody on TV and they want to be a TV star, or they want to be a TV, 5-star chef or whatever. And I mean, I'm like the worst person to be saying this because I kind of did all the wrong things, like change my career later just to do this. And I come out of school and I need to make money because I'm at this point in my life. And, but it is a huge risk. And I think people go into culinary school thinking when I come out, I'll be making these figures and I'll be doing this thing. And really you have to most of the time work your way through that. And it's a little bit of a shock to a lot of people. And I think it kind of like throws them off, and they expect a lot, and then people have a hard time hiring the right people because these guys don't have the same experience, but they want more money. It's like a really tricky thing that's sort of contorted the food industry for sure.
What is the most encouraging thing you see in Philadelphia today?
Community. I mean, people here, although there's like definitely some butting heads in this in this city. There's everybody's slightly aggressive.
To say the least, it's brotherly love. We fight
constantly. Like literally everybody fights with everybody. But at the same time, like you find your niche, like whatever neighborhood you live in, you could easily have like a core group of community people that are all very supportive. Like that's very, I guess, East Coast of us to be like, you're my people, I got you. It's not like everybody's friendly with everybody, but if it's like, if you're with me, like we're good,
If you head over to podphillywho.com/Becca, you'll see a picture of the famous Beyoncé cake and the even more famous High School Musical cake. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe and rate us on iTunes. If you have ideas for who would make a great guest or just overall feedback, hit us up on Twitter and Instagram @PodPhillyWho. Music by Lee Rosevere. Podcast artwork by Lauren Carhart. For Philly Who, my name is Kevin Schmidlin. See you next week.